The Biden administration is set to announce a $1.2 billion weapons package for Ukraine next week. This, as President Biden's time left to help broker a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas is dwindling. Joining us now here on set, former CENTCOM spokesperson and retired Colonel Joe Buccino. Joe, thanks for being here in the holiday week, but so much happening worldwide. Let's start with the Ukraine aid package, $1.2 billion, leaves about $4 billion and change in this presidential drawdown authority, but clearly looks like Biden's trying to get more weapons out of the window before the Trump administration takes over.
Well, that's exactly right. President Biden is looking to try to give Ukraine as much leverage as possible before the Trump administration comes in. I'm not sure what kind of hand that leaves Trump with here in order to broker a ceasefire, but that's really what the Biden administration is looking to do. What they've always been trying to do here is just push as many weapons, as much material as they can into Ukraine to strengthen the Ukrainian position.
Was there anything, Colonel, significant in this package in terms of weapons? I know there were some surface-to-air missiles and some defense systems. Anything really different from what we've seen before?
More of the same. A lot of what we've seen before, the drones, surface-to-air missiles, air defense systems, and I think those are intended to harden and fortify the Ukrainian positions and really strengthen their hand in Kursk, which is really, they're losing a lot of leverage there.
Retired CIA Station Chief Dan Hoffman weighed in on this. Here's a little bit of what he had to say. Take a listen.
This was a reflection of the Biden administration's failed policy. They never gave Ukraine what they needed when they needed it. Too little, too late. That's why Ukraine continues to suffer these attacks on their critical infrastructure, denying people heat and power. Biden administration behaved as if Ukraine had infinite amount of time to defend themselves from this Russian onslaught.
Colonel, do you agree? Too little, too late?
I do. We've always been half in, half out with this. We've always been dribbling some of these weapons in. There's never been, I think, an organized policy around Ukraine or around organizing a ceasefire. Most people at this point in Ukraine want this war to end. Zelensky wants the war to continue. I think that in terms of organizing a ceasefire, organizing an end to this, there's got to be a way for Putin to feel pain. There's got to be a way for Ukraine to gain something, and that's never been really established here.
Let's talk about the ceasefire possibilities in Gaza. It seems that it's dwindling. We did hear in recent days Jake Sullivan saying that they thought they were, quote, close this time. Where do you see it?
I'm skeptical. I never thought they were close, really, in large part because Netanyahu is organizing and he's coordinating with two different elements. The military wing of Hamas, run by Mohammed Sinwar, the brother of the slain Hamas military leader Yahya Sinwar, and the political arm of Hamas, which is organizing out of the Middle East, out of Qatar, and is much more pragmatic, much more practical. Sinwar wants to continue the war. He's not going to give up these hostages. I don't even think he can give up these hostages because they're organized by many different factions there inside of Hamas. I don't even think he knows where they all are. And the political arm of Hamas wants to get to some kind of temporary ceasefire so we can organize a longer truce and come to some negotiations about Israel fortifications in the south. I just don't think it's going to happen. I honestly never thought it was going to happen under this administration.
So as the Trump administration comes in, and this is the hand they're being dealt, how do they approach it? President-elect Trump seems to be quite optimistic he can bring this to a close, but as you point out, it's quite complicated.
It's complicated. What I think the advantage that President Trump is going to have is this one-on-one diplomacy, this personal diplomacy that we saw in his first 4 years in office. He knows Netanyahu. He knows Netanyahu's motives. He knows Netanyahu's political operations, the way Netanyahu organizes and thinks about things. He knows him very closely, and he can push on some of those levers and I think come to some kind of agreement on that side of it, and then from there, some kind of agreement in Qatar with the political arm of Hamas.
I'm about out of time, but I get so excited to talk to you, Joe, because you know so much about this. I got to ask you just quickly, we had the Chinese spy plane flying over U.S. warships. That's almost an elephant in the room that President-elect Trump's going to inherit. How does he approach this?
Well, it's potentially very remarkable. You know, we see these images, 6th generation Chinese stealth jet fighter. They may have leapfrogged our capabilities on 6th gen stealth jet fighter. It's hard to tell from these images, but this is really something we're going to have to address. Great power competition is something that President Trump prioritizes. You remember when he came in the first time, national defense policy was China, 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 and we're going to see that the second time with President
And they
Trump.
seem ahead of us in warships.
They seem ahead of us in warships. They may be ahead of us here in 6th gen stealth aircraft.
This is going to be something to look forward to in the new year. Colonel Joe Buccino, thank you so much for being here, and have a happy new year.
You too, Griff. Thanks so much.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.